So this topic for today will be contentment. And when you're not content, when you're dissatisfied with what's going on in your life, it leads to sin. And you will forget the God that you serve because you're discontent. It leads to all kinds of thoughts running crazy in your brain. It leads to dissatisfaction in the way that you feel like you're being led. Like you think your life should go one way, but God is choosing something else for you. And it causes this discontentment. So I wanted to talk about that. Here's my glasses. Thank you. All right. So I wanted to talk about that. I'm going to give us several examples in Scripture, but I'm going to start with the definition of contentment. This was I gathered it from two different dictionaries. It's a state of happiness or satisfaction. Merriam-Webster says it's the quality or state of being contented. And Cambridge Dictionary says happiness and satisfaction, often because you have everything you need. But I got to say, when you have everything you need, sometimes your mind goes astray. So you got to be careful because the enemy is always seeking a way to get into your life. So how does one become discontent? There's several reasons why we become discontent. Unmet needs. We have these needs that aren't just being met, and we feel unfulfilled, and it causes us a state of dissatisfaction. You're just not content. You're not happy. Unmet desires. When we have what we don't, we don't have what we want, and when we have what we want, or we have things, but we don't want them. So we have these things, but we don't want them anymore, and you just become dissatisfied. Temporary focus. When we focus on the negative circumstances of the here and now, that often leads to us to becoming content. How many of us have bore witness to that? And also, we naturally lose heart when that happens. When we have this we're focused on things, we have this grass is always greener syndrome. It causes us to be content. It can cause discontentment in a relationship. You think that, if I only had that girl, it would be so much better than the girl I have now, or the man that I have now. That man's so much better. It causes this state of discontent. But I'll tell you right now, there is nothing bigger than that lie. There's nothing bigger than that. The grass is not always greener. We are a bunch of imperfect people. And you're just going to exchange one set of problems for another set of problems. You see this great thing, but it ain't great. It's just that problems are different than the problems you're dealing with now. So just learn to deal with the problems you got now and stop losing your focus. Be content with what you have. There's other things too that lead to discontentment. Comparing ourselves to others. You want what the other person has. Well, that life is so much better than mine. I sure wish my life was like their life. That often leads to discontentment. And all of a sudden, the things that you have in your life that God has given you, you're no longer satisfied with. That leads to all kinds of sin. It's going to lead you down a dangerous path. Remember, there's a reason why God put coveting in the Ten Commandments. Coveting is major, and it often leads to discontentment. When you start to covet other people's things, possessions, people in their lives, anything, then you're telling Yah, you've blessed him, but you ain't blessed me. You've given him things, but you ain't given me things. You create this discontentment in your life, and it leads you to sin. It's going to put sin on top of sin. You're often going to start to do these things. And here was the one that kind of shocked me. God sometimes causes us to be discontent, and there's a reason for it. Sometimes God may take away our satisfaction if we try to fulfill needs and desires on our own. We lose the path of Yah. We forget to ask him to guide me, lead me, and we go off on our own seeking, how am I going to fulfill these unmet desires and needs? We do it on our own. We're going to see a couple of examples of that in Scripture. And so when we do this, it leads to sin because God has blessed you with something and you're not happy with it anymore. So you start to seek to fulfill these needs and desires on your own. So the first one I wanted to talk about was comparing ourselves to others, because that was in the Torah portion that I had last week. So I wanted to go to Numbers chapter 4, because that was the Torah portion. So I want to start there. And I want us to think about the duties of the Kohathites because they had some extremely important duties. They were given an honor and a privilege. And so this is going to lead to Korah. So I want to get into Numbers chapter 4. We're going to read about the duties of the sons of the Kohathites. And I'm going to start in verse 1. Numbers chapter 4, verse 1. And Yahuwah spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Take a census of the sons of Kohath from among the children of Levi by their families and their fathers' houses, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, all who enter the service to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting. This is the service of the sons of Kohath in the tabernacle of meeting related to the most holy things. They had charge of the most holy things. And the most holy of them all was the Ark of the Covenant. That was the duty of the Kohathites. We're going to read about this. So we're going to get into this a little bit here. Verse 5. When the camp prepares to journey, Aaron and his sons shall come and take down the covering veil, and the cover of the ark of the testimony in it. And they shall put on it a covering of badger skins, and spread that over that a cloth entirely of blue, and they shall insert its poles. And on the table of showbread they shall spread a blue cloth, and put on its dishes, its pans, its bowls, the pictures for pouring. The showbread shall be on it, and they shall spread over them a scarlet cloth, and a cover with the same, and cover the same with the cover of badger skins. And they shall insert its poles, and they shall take a blue cloth and cover the lampstand of the lamp, and with its lamps, its wick trimmers, its trays, and its oil vessels, and which they service it. And they shall put it in with its utensils and in a covering of badger skin, and put on it a carrying beam. Over the golden altar they shall spread the blue cloth, and cover it with a covering of badger skin, and they shall insert its poles. And they shall take all the utensils of service with which they minister in the sanctuary, and put them in a blue cloth, and cover them with the covering of badger skins, and put them on a carrying beam. And they shall take away the ashes from the altar, and spread a purple cloth over it, and they shall put on it its implements, which they shall minister there, the fire pans, the forks, the shovels, the basins, all the utensils of the altar. And they shall spread on it a covering of badger skin, and insert its poles. And when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary, all the furnishings of the sanctuary, when the camp is set to go, then the sons of Kohath shall come in and carry them. So Aaron and his sons, the entire things that are in the holy place and the most holy place, they prep it, and then the Kohaths have the duty to start carrying this stuff out. So now we're going to go to Numbers chapter 16. We all know this story, but it's good to repeat it because there's a lot of lessons in this story. Numbers chapter 16, and I'm going to start in verse 1. Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath. So we see that Korah is a son of Kohath. He would have had a responsibility of carrying the Ark of the Covenant. With Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, the sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives of the congregation, men of renown. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and Yahuwah is among them. Then why do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of Yahuwah? Do you see Korah's problem right here? He's envying a position that wasn't given to him, yet he himself has a great position. He represents Yah everywhere they march, and he's not happy with that. He's coming against Moses and the leaders that God has appointed. And this is what happens when you do what we just read in Ecclesiastes 4, verse 4. You envy somebody else's position. Do you see how that causes discontentment? All of a sudden, you're not content with the job that God gave you. You want something else. But God gave you a great task. Just be happy in that. We should find our contentment in whatever Yah gives us to do. So we see that, and we're going to read on because this story gets so much deeper. So when Moses heard it, he fell on his face, and he spoke to Korah and his company, saying, tomorrow morning, Yahuwah will show who is his and who is holy, and he will cause him to come near to him, that one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Do this, take censers, Korah, and all your company, and put fire in them, and put incense in them before Yahuwah tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom Yahuwah chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourself, you sons of Levi. This should have automatically caused Korah to think of something. Who else put censers in a fire when he wasn't supposed to do it? You remember? It was the sons, it was the Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu. They put censers when they weren't supposed to do it. And what happened to them? It did not go well. That should have brought into their mind right there. I would have been like, oh man, you want me to put a censer in the fire? And Yah didn't command this. I would have been thinking twice. But Korah, filled with pride now and envying somebody else's position, he ain't thinking about that things. He totally forgets what just happened, and he's going to march headlong. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll do this. Like, he's bold here. So continuing on. Then Moses said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, it is a small thing to you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from among the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of Yah. He's bringing to their remembrance, didn't he just give you this great task of carrying around the Ark of the Covenant? You are representing our king every time we march out. But that's not enough for you? This is what Moses is telling him. Like, why just not be content with what God has given you? Why do you got to want something that God didn't intend for you? Because when God holds something back from you, I guarantee you it's always for your benefit. Some things that he holds back from me are probably good because I don't know what I would do if I was given that situation. I might go totally wrong. So thank Yah that he protects me and only gives me enough that I can handle rather than wanting something that I shouldn't want. I love the fact that God gives us the desires of our heart. He gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want. And praise Yah for that. Because how many times have we wanted things that wouldn't have been good for us to have? Many, many times. And this is what we're seeing with Korah. He's wanting the priesthood instead of being comfortable with what he's got, which is representing Yah every time you march out. That would be a privilege and an honor that I would be happy to have. But he's not happy. He's not happy. So let's jump down to verse 12. And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they said, we will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? Now here's the people that Korah has now convinced, man, what's with these guys? They think they're so holy, but we're holy too. Aren't we the chosen people of Yah too? And he's infiltrated their minds. Do you see where this discontentment of Korah leads to? He's not only affecting himself, he's affecting others. He's spreading this poison in the camp. They're now not happy. These people that he's whispered in their ear, they're now not happy. And they're saying things that, you should really think twice before you say. He's telling them, you brought us up out of Egypt. Egypt was the land flowing with milk and honey, yet you're bringing us in here, which is not a land flowing with milk and honey. They're actually accusing Yah of not doing what he said to do. This is where discontentment leads. It leads to sin. Verse 14, moreover, you have not brought us into a land with milk and honey. See that? You haven't brought us into the good land that God has said promised us, nor have you given us the inheritance of the field or vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And Moses was very angry, and he said to Yahuwah, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I hurt one of them. And Moses said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company be present before Yahuwah, you and they, yes, and as well as Aaron. Let each take his censer and put an incense in it, and each bring his censer before Yahuwah. 250 censers, both you and Aaron, each with his censer. So every man took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and the altar before the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them at the door of tabernacle of meeting. And then the glory of Yahuwah appeared to all the congregation. And Yahuwah spoke with Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among the congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And then they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim, of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation? So Yahuwah spoke with Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel feared him. And he spoke to the congregation, depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you should be consumed in their sin. And again, they have convinced these other men to now sin, all because they were discontent with the job that Yah had given them. It spread throughout the camp. He infiltrated the minds of other men so that they're now discontent. This is a sad story of what happens when we compare ourselves with somebody else, when we envy somebody else's position that wasn't given to us. We should always think, maybe God didn't give me that position because I'm either not ready for it or I'm not meant to have it. Be content with what God has given you, because God knows what's best. You're challenging his judgment. You're challenging his wisdom. You're questioning his very sovereignty. All because you decide, I want what he has. I don't like what you've given me. I think what he has is better than what I have. That's a dangerous place to put yourself in. And then we're going to see what happens. And Moses said, by this you shall know that you has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done any of them of my own will. If these men die naturally like men, like all men, or if they're visited by a common fate of all men, then Yahuwah has not sent me. But if Yahuwah creates a new thing, and the earth opens up its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, they will go down alive into the pit. Then you will understand that these men have rejected Yahuwah. They have rejected Yahuwah 100%. God gave them a great responsibility. They're not happy with it. They want something else. And so now Yah is going to destroy them. Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking these words, that the ground split apart from underneath them, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with all their household and all the men with Korah and all their goods, so that they and all these with them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly, all because of the discontentment of Korah, when he had a great responsibility, representing Yah everywhere the children of Israel went. Sad story, sad story. The next one I wanted to go to was temporal focus. This is when we lose our focus and we dwell on something that's temporary at best. And so I wanted to take you to Numbers chapter 11. All right, Numbers chapter 11, and I'm going to start in verse 4. Now a mixed multitude who were among them yielded to intense craving, so the children of Israel also wept again and said, who will give us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we ate freely in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our whole being is dried up, and there is nothing at all except this manna before our eyes. This, again, is temporary losing your focus. God has provided all their needs, and yet now they're not happy with that. And I hope that this is a witness to us today. That when we're in the wilderness and we get manna to eat, don't complain about missing Whataburger and McDonald's and Taco Bell. Don't do that, people. This should be your example. Remember what happened here. Be content that Yah is feeding you. Is he not our provider? Again, he provides for our needs, but not necessarily our wants. And thank God for that. In his wisdom, he knows what we need, But he's not always going to give you what you want, because what you want could be dangerous for you. And so here these people, they've had bread now for several years now. This is when they're starting to journey towards the promised land. And so they've been eating manna for a while. And I get, it might be tiresome, but don't complain. Trust in Yah. He's your provider. Psalms 23, David said that. He said, "You are my shepherd, I shall not want." And what he means by that is I won't be in want, because you're going to provide. You're going to be the shepherd that's leading me. I'm going to trust in you, because I'll never be in want. You're always going to meet my needs. I might not always have what I want, but my needs will always be met if I just trust in you. And so I want us to think about that. Always remember that. God will always meet our needs. He's never going to leave you nor forsake you. So now we're going to see what happens. And now the manna was like coriander seed, and its color was like the color of bdellium. And the people went about gathering it on the ground and gathering it and beating it in millstones and in mortar, and they cooked in the pans and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was like the taste of a pastry prepared with oil. Sounds pretty good to me. I like pastries. And when the dew fell on the camp in the night, the manna fell on it. And then Moses heard that the people were weeping throughout their families, everyone at the door of his tent, and the anger of Yahuwah was greatly aroused. Moses also was displeased. So Moses said to Yahuwah, "Why have you afflicted your servant? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I beget them, that you should say to me, carry them on your bosom? And as guardian carries a nursing child to a land that you swore to their fathers? Where am I to get this meat to give to these people?" So now you see what discontentment in the camp has caused. Moses is now, man, these people are just doing nothing but complaining and bickering and murmuring, and I got to carry them? He's even frustrating the leader of the people. This should be a lesson for all of us. Your discontentment affects others. It affects other people in your family when you're bickering, complaining, moaning, and groaning about stuff you either want or don't have. Stop it. Just be content with what you've got. It spreads to others. Where am I to get meat to all these people? For they weep over me, saying, "Give us meat that we may eat. For I am not able to bear all these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. If you treat me like these, please kill me here and now." And that's pretty bad. Moses is so affected by all this, he wants to die. He's so sick of hearing these complaints from all these people. He's like, just take me out, man. I can't deal with these people. Pretty messed up. Anyway, so let's go down. I'm going to jump down to verse 19. "You shall eat not only 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10, nor 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and becomes loathsome to you, because you have despised Yahuwah who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why did we ever come out of Egypt?" Yah's mad. Yah's really mad. He's given them manna this entire time. He's fed them. He's met every single one of their needs, and yet this bickering and complaining has gotten Yah to the point where now he's going to pour out his fury. And Moses said, the people whom I am among are 600,000 men on foot, and you have said, I will give them meat that they may eat for a whole month? Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them to provide enough for them? I always question that. There was meat among them. They had their herds and animals. Why are they complaining about meat? It never made sense to me. Or shall the fish of the sea be gathered for them to be provided enough for them? And Yahuwah said to Moses, has Yahuwah's arm been shortened? Now you shall see whether what I say will happen to you or not. So Moses went out and told the people the words of Yahuwah, and he gathered 70 men of Israel, the people, and placed them all around the tabernacle. And then Yahuwah came down in a cloud and spoke to them, and took hold of the spirit that was upon him, and placed the same upon the 70 elders. And if happened, when the spirit rested upon them, that they prophesied, although they never did so again. But 2 men remained in the camp, and the name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other was Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them. Now they were among those listed, but they had not gone out to the tabernacle, yet they prophesied in the camp. And the young men ran out and told Moses, and Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. So Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, one of his choice men, answered and said to them, Moses, my master, forbid them. And Moses said to them, are you zealous for my sake? All that Yahuwah's people were that all Yahuwah's people were prophets, and Yahuwah would put his spirit upon them. And Moses returned to the camp and the elders of Israel. Now here's where Yah is going to place judgment on them. Now the wind went out from Yahuwah and brought quail from the sea, left them fluttering near the camp, about a day's journey on this side and about a day's journey on the other side, all around the camp, about 2 cubits above the surface of the ground. The people stayed up all that night and all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quail. He who had gathered least gathered 10 omers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. But while the meat was still between their teeth, before they chewed it, the wrath of Elohim was aroused against the people, and Yahuwah struck the people with a very great plague. So the people named the place of Kilbroth Hattaavah, because they buried the people who yielded to this intense craving. I mean, it was so bad that they had this meat coming out their nostrils. I'm not going to complain when I'm in the wilderness about Whataburger, because I sure don't want Whataburger coming out my nostrils. I'll be happy with the manna. I don't want food coming out of my nostrils. That's pretty gross. So anyway, all of this is because of discontentment. The people had what they needed, but they wanted something else. Rather than trusting in Yah's provision, they wanted something that they were desiring something that they shouldn't have wanted. And they were even complaining against the very promises of God. So the next one I wanted to go to was, I wanted to tackle, remember when I was talking about how does one come discontent? Sometimes Yah provides the discontentment because he's trying to get our attention. And so I got 2 examples of this. One is Solomon. So I want to start in Ecclesiastes. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. Chapter 2, and I'm going to read verse 10 and 11. This is Solomon. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my labor. And then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on all the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed, it was all vanity, a grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. Yeah, he realizes he had everything a man could possibly want. 1,000 women, a kingdom. He had everybody was coming to him. He had great wealth. He had horses, anything, gardens, vineyards. He had. This just goes to show you that men chase these things, and it never brings happiness. It won't bring happiness because there's a void in everybody's heart that only Yah can fill. And you're trying to fill that void with something other than Yah himself. You will never be happy chasing things of this world. Because here we have Solomon, one of the wisest men. God had given him an understanding heart. He has so much wisdom, and he's chasing after everything and nothing satisfying him. And just to show you this, I want to go to 1 Kings. Let's go to 1 Kings, and we're going to go to chapter 2. Solomon starts out really good. He gets great instructions from his father, and that's why I wanted to read these instructions. Solomon gets wisdom from David, his father. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. Now the days of David drew near that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of the earth. Be strong, therefore, and prove yourself a man. I love that verse. I absolutely love that because he's saying to Solomon, stand up, show yourself a man. I'm going to give you some advice right here. And what does he tell him? And keep the charge of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to walk in his ways and keep his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses. Why? That you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn. That Yahuwah may fulfill his word, which he spoke spoke concerning me, that if the conditional word that we love to stress on, your sons take heed to their way and they walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, he has said, you shall not like a man on the throne of Israel. So David gives Solomon great advice here. He knows that the ways of this world are wicked, and the only way we keep our path straight is following the commandments of Yah. That is truth. That's why he says that. He says, if your sons take heed to their way to walk in before me in truth, his commandments are truth. We're told that in Psalms 142 and in 151. God's law is truth, and his commandments are truth. Everything outside of that is a lie. You're chasing after the wind, just like we read in Ecclesiastes. You can have everything this world can possibly give you, and you will not be happy because you're not doing it Yah's ways. You're seeking after the ways of the world without following Yah, and it will always lead to discontentment, and discontentment will lead you into sin. So we see this great advice that his father gives him. Now I want to go to chapter 3, because I want to read about Solomon, because what he asks for was good. Solomon starts out great. He should have had the world right in the palm of his hands, and yet he gives it all away. 1 Kings chapter 3, starting in verse 1. Now Solomon made a treaty with the Pharaoh king of Egypt and married Pharaoh's daughter. Big mistake. Then he brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of Yahuwah and the walls all around Jerusalem. Meanwhile, the people sacrificed at all the high places because there was no house built for the name of Yahuwah until those days. And Solomon loved Yahuwah. See, he starts out good. He loves Yahuwah. Walking in the statutes of his father David. He starts out great, except that he sacrificed and burnt incense at the high places. This was the one flaw of Solomon, probably because he married Pharaoh's daughter, which we were told not to do. Why? Because they'll lead you astray. They'll lead you astray. Find someone in the faith. Don't go outside God's lines. God gives us rules for a reason, and they're always to protect you. When you go outside those rules, it's going to cost you. And somehow we think that we're following these commandments to be righteous. No, we're not. Our righteousness comes from Messiah himself. We keep the law to show that the faith that we've placed in the Messiah is doing something in me. It should produce a change. Before I come to Messiah, I'm walking in disobedience. I don't care what he says. I don't want to do what he says. He says, do, I don't want to do. He says, don't do that, I want to do. That's before Messiah. But when you come to Messiah, a change should happen. A change should come into my heart. It's Christ who leads me to obedience. I don't obey laws to earn some kind of merit in his eyes. I obey laws because that's the faith that I've placed in my Messiah, that he's changing me. All these things that we do is because Messiah is changing us. We can't boast about them. I can't brag about obedience when it's Christ doing it in me. He gets all the glory. He gets all the honor. And so we see Solomon starts out good, but he marries foreign women. He's intermingling when we're told not to do that. Stay within the faith, because these people will take you away from your faith. We've seen people who go outside the lines and pay for it later. It doesn't work. Do it Yah's way. Trust. You know, obeying Yah is all about trust. It's all about trust. What you're saying when you walk in obedience is, I trust you. I trust you. You make sense. You've given us rules to live by for our protection, not to earn righteousness by. You protect us. Your rules are guidelines keeping us straight. And so we see Solomon starts out and starts making some errors, but he did start out good. We're going to jump down to verse 6. And Solomon says, you have shown me great mercy to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in truth, in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with you. David walked right. David walked right. And so Solomon acknowledges this. You have continued this greatness for him, and you have given him a son to sit on his throne to this day. Now, O Yahuwah, my Elohim, You have made your servant king instead of my father David, but I am a little child. I don't know how to go out or come in. Oh, that's a heart we all should have. Yeah, I don't know nothing. Teach me. I don't know how to come out. I don't know how to go in. I'm going to trust in you that you're going to show me how to go out and how to come in. That's following the commandments. That's following the commandments. We're trusting in Yah, that he knows best. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered and counted. Therefore, give to your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? Solomon asks for such a wise thing here. And because he asks for this, Yah blesses him immensely. There has been no man since Solomon or after Solomon that ever had the wisdom of Solomon. All because he asks for the right things. He wants an understanding heart so that he may discern between good and evil. Yet he still goes astray. He still goes astray because of discontentment. He starts to fulfill wants and desires in his own way rather than Yah. Had he stayed on that path, he would have been fine. But he goes off the path and he starts to fulfill it his own way. And I love this speech. He said in verse 10, the speech pleased Yahuwah, so Solomon that Solomon asked this thing. And then God said to him, because you have asked this thing and have not asked for long life for yourself, or asked for riches for yourself, or asked the life of your enemies, you have asked for yourself an understanding to discern justice. I love that. Yah is like commending him here. You asked for a very smart thing. I'm shocked because most people, that's what they ask me for. I'm sure God hears prayers day and night, nonstop. Lord, give me this. Lord, give me that. We're always wanting things for ourselves, but yet Solomon doesn't ask for that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, right. Behold, I have done according to your words. I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has not been anyone like you before you, nor shall anyone be like you after, nor shall any like you arise after you. Do you see that? There's no one that's ever had the wisdom of Solomon, all because he asked for the right things. So I pray I learn to ask for the right things and not ask for the things that I think that I want, that I think would please me in the moment. Solomon didn't ask for that. He could have asked for riches. He could have asked for glory. He could have asked, kill my enemies. But he didn't ask for none of that. He asked for the right thing. So it's pretty wise. Now I want to show you how much Yah blessed him. Let's go to chapter 10, 1 Kings chapter 10. And I'm going to start in verse 14. This is how much wealth Solomon had. Chapter 10, verse 14. The weight of gold that came to Solomon yearly, he got this yearly, 666 talents of gold. Besides that, from the traveling merchants, from the income of the traders, from the kings of Arabia, and from the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold. 600 shekels of gold went into each shield. He also made 300 shields of hammered gold. 3 minas of gold went into each shield. The king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps, and on the top of the throne was round at the back, and there was armrests on either side of the place of the seat. 2 lions stood at the armrests. I want you to try to picture this. He had 2 lions on the armrests, and 2 lions stood, there on each side of the 6 steps. Nothing like this had been made for any other kingdom. And King Solomon drinking vessels were gold, and the vessels of his house of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. Not one was silver. It was all gold. He didn't even mess around with silver. This was accounted as nothing in the days of Solomon. That's how wealthy this guy was. For the king had merchant ships at sea with the fleet of Hiram. Once every 3 years, the merchant ships came bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and monkeys. So King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. That is an amazing statement. He surpassed every single king that existed before him. There was no one like Solomon. His kingdom was magnificent. Now all the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Each man brought his presents, articles of silver, gold, garments, armor, spices, horses, mules, at a set rate year by year. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed at the chariot cities, and with the kings of Jerusalem. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedar trees as abundant as the sycamores which are in the lowland. Also Solomon had horses imported from Egypt and Keva. The king's merchants brought them in Keva at the current price. Now a chariot was imported from Egypt that cost 600 shekels of silver, and a horse 150. And thus, through their agents, they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Syria. That is an amazing kingdom that this man built. Where silver was counted as practically nothing. Silver, that's nothing. Everything was gold. Solomon had all of this, yet was discontent. This just goes to show you that you can chase things of this world, and they're not going to bring the contentment that only Yah can bring. There is a void in every single one of our hearts, and only He can fill that void. You can try to fulfill it with stuff. Solomon did. Solomon tried to fulfill it with stuff. He was constantly chasing wisdom and knowledge and things of the world, and he lost his focus on his first love, which should have been Yah. He lost his focus, and it took him out. His discontentment led to the downfall of the king of Israel. It was the downfall. So to show you the downfall, let's go to chapter 11. But King Solomon loved many foreign women, as well as the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Sidonians, and the Hittites, from the nations whom Yah had said to the children of Israel, you shall not intermarry with them, nor they with you. Surely they will turn your hearts after other gods. And that's exactly what happens to Solomon. All because he didn't want to do it Yah's way. He was fulfilling desires in his own ways, in his own eyes, rather than trusting in Yah. Even though he was one of the wisest men that ever lived. It just goes to show you that this flesh cannot be trusted at all. This flesh is always going to want what's against Yah. And that's what Romans talks about. Romans chapter 8 tells us that. That the mind, the flesh, it'll always desire the things of the world. It's always going to do that. That's why we have to control our flesh. And the only way to do that is through Messiah himself. He gives you the power to overcome. And so we see this is the downfall of Solomon. He does all these great things, but yet loses it because of discontentment, which leads him into sin. He starts making bad decisions. He starts intermingling with the women of the world rather than trusting in Yah. And so to conclude the story of Solomon, I want to go back to Ecclesiastes because Solomon gets it in the end. Ecclesiastes 12, 13. Let us hear the whole conclusion of the matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments. This is man's all, or this is the duty of man. This is the duty. Our duty is to obey him. Our duty is to obey him. This is why he created us. Because when you're walking in obedience, you're representing the very God who gave you life. When you decide that the commandments no longer matter, who are you representing? Who was the only person throughout Scripture that said, did God really say? No. The commandments are important because you're representing the King of the world, the one who created us. It's our duty to obey him. For Elohim will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. He figures it out in the end. Unfortunately, this discontentment led to the destruction of Israel. Israel gets divided into two camps, and we all know the story from there. All because he took his focus off of Yah. He started chasing his own desires. He tried to fulfill the desires that he had in his own way rather than trusting in God. The last story I want to go to on how God can take away your satisfaction, I want to talk about Saul. So let's go to 1 Samuel. And this is kind of twofold. There's two camps that get discontented. One is Saul, and the other is the people. The people are discontent. So this one is kind of twofold. So let's go to 1 Samuel, and we're going to start in chapter 8. This is a great example of how people are. We're never happy. we're never happy. Israel should have had the world by the tail, and they were supposed to represent Yah. They were the ones that were supposed to represent Yah on the earth. In Deuteronomy 4, it tells them that. If you guys do this right, every nation around you will say, surely you are a wise and understanding people. Who gave you these righteous laws and commandments? Yah himself. The other nations were supposed to see Israel as that light. They would have been that light. But what do they become discontent too. They start wanting the things of the world. They start wanting to fulfill desires in their own ways. And they start comparing. So in chapter 8, we get this. And now it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba, but his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain. They took bribes and perverted justice. And all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the other nations. They want to be like all the other nations. When Yah was their king, this upset Samuel. Verse 6, but this thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge over us. So Samuel prayed to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah said to Samuel, heed the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should reign over them. Israel was supposed to have God as their king, leading them by the way. Yet they see all the other nations, hey, all these other nations, they got kings. I don't want that. I want what they got. Again, their desires, because they're comparing themselves with others, takes them off course. How much more should we have been content when God is our king, leading us through every single battle, giving us victory after victory? That's not enough for you? It's craziness. I mean, I got a little sad face next to this verse because it breaks my heart every time I read it. Yah was their king and they reject him? And I love what Samuel tells them. He warns them. Verse 10. Let's go to verse 10. Samuel says this. Samuel told all the words of Yahuwah to the people who asked for a king, and he said, this will be the behavior of the king who will rule over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariot. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots. He will appoint captains over his thousands and captains over his 50s, and he will set some to the plow his ground and reap his harvest, and some will make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers, and he will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, your oil groves, and give them to his servants. He will take a tenth of your grain of your vineyard, and he will give it to his officers and servants. He will take your male servants and your female servants, your finest young men, your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take a tenth of your sheep, and you will be his servants, and you will cry out that day because your king, whom you have chosen for yourself, and Yahuwah will not hear you in that day. You wanted this, now deal with it. I'm warning you right now, this is what the king will do. And just about every king in history has done this very same thing. They take everything for themselves and give very little to you. I don't know if I once saw a video of the Queen of England when she was still alive, and she's touring all the gold in her castle. And there are bars upon bars, stacks and stacks, and she's just touring them because all the people are paying taxes to her at massive. She gets all the wealth, and she sits on her butt doing nothing in a castle. This is what happens, and this is what they want, rather than Yah, who is telling them, follow me, and I will meet every one of your needs. I will give you victory. You won't have to serve nobody. I'll make you the head and not the tail. They don't want that. They want the ways of the world. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, we will have a king over us, that we may be like the nations. We should never have wanted to be like the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Rather than you, Yah, we would rather trust in man. So sad. So sad. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he repeated them in the hearing of Yahuwah. And so Yahuwah said to Samuel, heed their voice and make them a king. And Samuel said to the men of Israel, every man go to his city. So he gives them what they want. Now I'm going to go to 1 Samuel 9. Let's go to verse 9. It's right there. And I'm going to read just verses 1 and 2. And there was a man of Benjamin, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, and the son of Zor, the son of Bechotherath, the son of Aphiam, a Benjaminite, a mighty man of power, and he had a choice and handsome son whose name was Saul. There was not a more handsome person among all the children of Israel. From his shoulders and upward, he was taller than any of the people. All right. Now I'm going to go to 15, same chapter, verse 15. Now Yahuwah had told Samuel in his ear the day before Saul came, saying, tomorrow, about this time, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him commander over my people, that he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people because their cry has come to me. So Yah is getting ready to give them this king. We're going to read down to 21. And then Samuel saw Saul. Yahuwah said to him, there he is, the man of whom I spoke to you. This one shall reign over my people. And Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate and said, please tell me, what is the seer's house? And Samuel answered Saul and said, I am the seer. Go up before me to a high place, and you shall eat with me today. And tomorrow I will let you go, and I will tell you all that is in your heart. But as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be anxious about them, for they have been found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and all your father's house? And I love this line from Saul, because he starts out good too. He's very humble. Saul says this. Saul answered and said, am I not a Benjaminite? I'm of the smallest tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribes of the Benjaminite. Why do you speak to me like this? Like, why should I be anointed king? I'm nobody. I'm the smallest tribe here. He starts out humble. He starts out really good, but he quickly goes astray. We're going to read chapter 10, where Saul gets this anointing, because this is interesting. 10 verse 1. And then Samuel took a flask of oil and poured it on his head and kissed him and said, is it not because Yahuwah has anointed you commander over his inheritance? I wish Saul would have kept that in mind. I wish he would have kept that in mind, because it's Yah who anointed him. But again, he becomes discontent. He's not satisfied, and he wants to start to heed the voice of the people rather than heed the voice of Yah. And we'll see that later on. So when you have departed from me today, you will find 2 men by Rachel's tomb in the territory of Benjamin at Zilzah. And they will say to you, the donkeys which you went to look for have been found. And now your father has ceased caring about the donkeys and is worried about you. What shall I do about my son? Then you shall go on forward from there and come to the terebinth tree of Tahor. And 3 men will go up to Elohim at Bethel. They will meet you, and one carrying 3 young goats, another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a skin of wine, and they will greet you and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you shall receive from their hands. After that, you shall come to the hill of Elohim, where the Philistine garrison is. And so it will happen when you have come up there to the city that you will meet a group of prophets coming down from a high place with the stringed instruments, a tambourine, a flute, and a harp before them, and they will be prophesying. Then the Spirit of Yahuwah will come upon you, and you will prophesy with them and be turned into another man. God is promising that I'm going to take you and make you into something that you never even could have possibly thought of. I'm going to turn you into another man. You're going to be different when I pour my Spirit out upon you. And let it be when these signs come to you that you do as the occasion demands. For Elohim is with you. You shall go down before me to Gilgal, and surely I will come down to you and to offer burnt offerings and make sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days you shall wait until I come to you, and I will show you what you should do. So it was when he had turned his back to go from Samuel that Elohim gave him another heart. He gives Saul another heart. And all the signs, they came to pass that day. And when they came there to the hill, there was a group of prophets to meet him. Then the Spirit of Elohim came upon him, and he prophesied among them. And it happened when all those who knew him formerly saw that he indeed prophesied among the prophets, and that the people said to one another, "What is this that has come upon the son of Kish? Is Saul among the prophets?" Then a man from there answered and said, "But who is their father?" Therefore it became a proverb, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" And when he had finished prophesying, he went to the high place. And Saul, we don't have to read the rest. But anyway, Saul gets this anointing, and he starts prophesying. He gets the Spirit of Elohim. He becomes the leader of Israel. He starts out really good. So now we're going to go to 1 Samuel 15. And instead of being content and trusting in Yah, that he would give you the hearts of the people, Saul starts to seek the hearts of the people in his own ways. And he starts to heed their cries rather than trusting in Yah. Samuel 15, starting in verse 1. Samuel also said to Saul, "Yahuwah has sent me and anointed you king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore heed the voice of the words of Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed you on the way when he came out from Egypt. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and do not spare them, but kill both man, woman, infant, nursing child, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey." And so he gets this duty to go in and wipe this town out, because Amalek was evil. Amalek, the people of Amalek, what they did when the children of Israel were coming out of Egypt is they attacked the back. They attacked them from behind. They took the weakest parts of Israel and they attacked them, the women and the children at the back end. Instead of going around to the front and attacking them head on, Amalek does this. This is why God's against him. He's against him because of the way he is. His heart is wicked. His heart is evil. He's not a good guy. And so God is placing judgment on Amalek because what he had done to the children of Israel when they were leaving Egypt. He attacked their rear flanks, the women and the children. And so God pays them evil for evil. So Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and lay in wait there in the valley. And Saul said to the Kenites, "Go, depart, get down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For you showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt." So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites, and Saul attacked the Amalekites from Havilah all the way to Shur, which is east of Egypt. And he also took Agag, the king of Amalek, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and took the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and were unwilling to utterly destroy them, even though God had told them to do so. But everything despised and worthless they utterly destroyed. So now Saul is listening to the people rather than trusting in Yah. It's causing discontentment in his own heart, and he's starting to seek after the things that he thinks he should do rather than trusting in Yah. Now the word of Yahuwah came to Samuel, saying, "I greatly regret that I have set up Saul as a king, for he has turned his back from following me." Who is Saul now following? He's not following Yah, he's following the voice of the people. He's become discontent, and it's leading him to sin. Discontentment leads to sin. And he has not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried out to Yahuwah all night. That Samuel rose early in the morning to meet Saul, and told Samuel, saying, Saul went out to Carmel, and indeed he has set up a monument for himself. Saul sets up a monument to himself. He thinks he's done the right thing. He's actually happy with himself when he shouldn't be. He's doing everything wrong here. Then Samuel went to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of Yahuwah. I have performed the commandment of Yahuwah. He thinks he obeyed Yah, even though he has not. But Samuel said, What then is this? What is this then? The bleating of sheep in my ears and the lowing of oxen which I hear. And Saul said, They have brought up from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice to Yahuwah, your God. He doesn't even call him his own God at this point. He's just making mistake after mistake. And the rest we have utterly destroyed. And Samuel said to Saul, Be quiet, for I will tell you what Yahuwah said to me last night. And he said, Speak on. So Samuel said, When you were little in your own eyes, remember he thought he was little in his own eyes. Remember the comment? He said, I came from the smallest of the camp. So Saul saw himself as little in his own eyes. And did not Yahuwah anoint you king of Israel? Now Yahuwah sent you on a mission and said, Go, utterly destroy the sinners. And that's an important verse there. He told him to destroy the sinners. There was no Amalekite worthy of saving. No Amalekite worthy of saving. They were all sinners. They were all against the commandments of Yah. And fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of Yahuwah? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do evil in the sight of Yahuwah? But Saul says to Samuel, I did indeed obeyed Yah's voice, when he clearly did not. He doesn't even take this chance to repent. He's actually boasting. He thinks he's obeying Yah. He doesn't even take this chance to say, man, I'm messing up here. I always love to compare this to what David did, because when David was confronted to his sin, he repents right away. He knows that he did wrong. He repents right away. But we don't see that here with Saul. Pride is filled up in his heart, and he's discontent. He's not happy with Yah fulfilling it. He's trusting in the people. He wants praise from the people rather than praise from Yah. That's the discontentment that Saul has. He's seeking the praises of Yah, of the people rather than Yah. He wants the people all to say how great he is, when he should be more worried about Yah calling you great. Anyway, he says, I have obeyed the voice of Yah. I have gone on the mission which Yahuwah has sent me, and I brought back Agag, the king of Amalek, and I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took the plunder, the sheep and the oxen, the best of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice to Yah, your Elohim. He does it again in Gilgal. He's not even calling Yah his own anymore. It's your God, Samuel. So Samuel said, Has Yahuwah as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices than obeying the voice of Yahuwah? I love that line. I love that line, because Yah really never wanted burnt offerings and sacrifices. He wanted our hearts. He put that in place because the children disobeyed him with the sin of the golden calf. So he puts this system in place to get them to Messiah. Because had they stayed in the first covenant, they would have died. When they make that blood covenant, they have to obey. And yet they don't. So God, in his mercy, gives them a renewed covenant and puts the Levitical priesthood in place with burnt offerings and sacrifices. But he never wanted that. He wanted their hearts. He wanted them to obey out of love. Behold, it is better to obey than sacrifice, than to heed the fat of rams, for rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is iniquity in the idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Yahuwah, he has also rejected you from being king. And so we see this downfall of Saul, all because he became discontent, and he rather would serve the people than Yah himself. He wanted the hearts of the people. He wanted the praises of the people rather than seeking the praises of Yah. So we had 4 accounts now of discontentment and how it can go. And every single example we see, when we take our focus off of Yah and we start to do desires in our own hearts and chase after them in our own ways rather than trusting in Yah, it always leads to sin. And it leads to this discontentment. We'll become discontent when we're not trusting in Yah, we're not doing things His way. The Bible encourages us to let go of these harmful comparisons that we do. Instead of measuring our worth by worldly standards, we need to focus on our unique journey and our divine purpose. We are to represent God and represent God faithfully. So in conclusion, contentment is not merely the absence of what we want. It's about trusting in Yah and recognizing that the abundance of blessings and recognize the abundance of blessings that we already have. He's blessed each and every single one of us. We should look at those blessings and not take our eyes off of that. He's blessed us in a lot of ways, and that's what you should keep your focus on. Rather than what you don't have, focus on what you got. By shifting our focus from what we lack to what we possess, we cultivate a grateful heart. We should be grateful of everything that Yah gives us. So Isaiah 41:10 says this, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your Elohim. I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." God has promised He will take care of us. He will meet our needs, not necessarily our wants. Lastly, Romans 5:13 says this, "May the Elohim of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him." Not in your own understanding, you put your trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. And so through this story of contentment, I really enjoyed doing this study. It was the first one I got to say I've enjoyed in a while. I mean, I was going through these verses and seeing these examples in Scripture, and I was like, man, I now get contentment. We base contentment on worldly standards rather than trusting in Yah. And when you do that, it leads to sin. It takes your focus off of Yah and onto yourself. It takes your focus, and all of a sudden, you're seeking the praises of men rather than the praises of Yah. You're not representing Him anymore. You're representing yourself. And so we see that in all these examples that I went through, and I hope this will give us all encouragement to begin to trust in Yah for our contentment, knowing that He will provide for all of our needs. But He won't always give you what you want, because what you want might not be beneficial for you. Amen?